students able to articulate why this is the right answer and this one isn't. But more importantly, are they able to use those skills and those problem-solving skills to solve other problems in exactly the same way? Can they collaborate to make sure that they get the correct answer and the methodology right every single time? Again, because we're focusing on that 1 year as a revision year, what we don't necessarily do is start off by teaching really difficult sums in maths or questions in English. We really will be looking to build up their confidence so that the fundamentals are there to allow us to move on. And again, this will touch on one of the presentations you'll hear later in terms of the mastery in both maths and English. So we don't automatically assume just because students can do things one way that we're going to give them massive, great big numbers and they can just get it. So again, it's all about for us building that confidence and building those fundamental skills and actually taking advantage of what the students know already. Significantly though, what we will do is take that information and make sure that when we know what the students have and haven't learned from that particular session, where those questions still remain, we make sure that when we start the next session, the connect activity draws on that information and that whole cycle starts again. So the connect activity, the piece of work that's waiting for that student when they walk through the door next time, will start to tick off all of the boxes from the questions or the activities that, as I said before, remain outstanding and where there's still some lingering misconceptions. Because that's how the framework works. It really builds one lesson on another and makes sure that we're covering off those misconceptions all the way through, and we're constantly building in that level of stretch and challenge so that when we get to the end of a teaching block or to the end of a term, the framework has allowed us to cover a whole plethora of work that the students are actually engaged with. So that's a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of C-SPAR and how it works. You'll see from your packs, the slides contain some more of the theories, and as I said before, once you complete the feedback from today, that will open up a whole range of different resources, including the link to the C-SPAR, so you can see the theory and then it comes with some suggestions of very quick activities that you can use on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to hand over shortly to Piers, and he'll talk to you about how we take the framework and really start to model that with our lesson planning and schema work. So I'm just going to freeze this thing and get you a bit ready. So I'll hand you over to Piers. Piers, as I said before, is our GCSE English course director. He'll talk you through how, as an organisation, we approach maths and English lesson planning and scheme of work planning. The focus all the while is to make sure that we're giving the students that different level of experience that we spoke about earlier, that the lesson plans fit within the C-SPAR framework, and also develop strength of character. It's one of the key pillars for us as a college. We're not only looking to build academic qualities within our students, also build strength of character. So we're looking at ambition and resilience, and really making that point that when students come to study their GCSE maths and English, or indeed their functional skills, they do need a certain level of resilience. They need a certain level of ambition and belief. And as I said before, that really is the fundamental part of C-SPAR and building up with those connect activities, etc. So I'll hand you over to Piers.
Okay, good morning, guys. The first thing that excuse me, the first thing that I'm going to speak to you about today is in the context of, as we can see, collaborative lesson planning. What we start off with as an English team, and indeed as I believe the maths team do themselves, is a calendar for the year. And within that calendar we have 4 milestone assessments. I believe we can see one of them we have there. Yeah. The milestone assessments are pretty much vitally important to the success of the students, to measuring that success, and it enables us as a team to understand a great a number of things about the students' abilities, about what help they may need, about any particular gaps in knowledge, and all sorts of other stuff, which I will go on to in a short while. If we take a look at the first 5 weeks there, and indeed you can see 2 weeks at the top marked 0, so the first couple of weeks that we've got, we always spend those making sure that students are in the right groups, everybody starts to get to know each other, we start to get a good feel for the students' abilities, what they may be capable of, what they may need to work on. And that's done in quite a fun and fairly sort of relaxed and informal way for the students, but behind the scenes in that, we are still judging and making initial judgments on what the students may need and how the group dynamics can work, and all the wild registers and everything else are being smoothed out so that we move into group 1. The point being there that we don't just lump them in with a lot of complicated work straight away, or just put them in wherever we see fit. As we get to the first week, and you'll notice a few in the green boxes, different teachers' names. Once we've got the milestone in place, we then come together as a team, and we really get a lot of time to really collaborate on the planning, with the aim to make sure that the students, when they reach the first milestone, they have the skills in place and the fundamental skills in place with which to make an attempt at that milestone. And I do think it's important at that stage for us to make sure that the students understand that that first milestone assessment, it is a full exam, but we do make sure that those students understand the benefit of that and the fact that it's for us to gauge their learning and for them to get an understanding initially of the exam, and that they need not feel that they've somehow failed again straight away if they don't reach that C grade or level 4 benchmark. And it's something that over the course of the year the students have been getting more and more into. Again, this is something that I'll touch on in a few minutes, how I actually know that. But as you can see, yeah, regarding the lesson planning, the lesson planning is almost taken backwards from the milestone. So, and we work particularly with skills. As we are working with the new spec, we've got the assessment objectives, and each of those relates to a particular question. But without blinding the students with science, we just key that down into particularly what they need for the question, and then try and boil that down still into the very, very basic skills that they will need, so that through weeks 1 to 4, they've learned everything that they need in terms of a particular reading skill or an analytical skill in order to make that attempt at an initial milestone assessment. We've got the next part. If you would. Yeah, thank you. So once the calendar is complete and the lessons throughout the course of the year are complete, we then put together and put them in place on the scheme of work. Now, the scheme of work is hyperlinked to each particular date, which of course cross-references with each particular week. You know the teacher that's planned it, so you can go and talk to them if necessary. We have the assessment objectives in each of the boxes there, and when you click on the hyperlink, it will very easily, very simply take you directly to where all of the materials are. So that the idea being that anybody across college who needs it can find it very, very easily. Anything new that goes in, we know where it goes, we can access it very easily. Lesson plans as well all go in a very easily accessible, hyperlinked connection through to lesson 2. Everything is cross-referenced and corresponding back, so there's no sorting through files, where's this, exchanges of emails, etc., etc. And as Trevor's just demonstrated here, yeah, we've got for lesson 2 the full set of materials. As you can see as well, we do have a number of different things, and there are a couple of different lessons or different variations on lessons in there. So we don't have one lesson which is then put out across the college. These lessons, they change and they sort of morph to fit with the groups and to make sure that all the students and their learning is properly accounted for. It's not just a one-size-fits-all lesson that then goes across college. Anything else, of course, information-wise in terms of the lesson plan, it's added on. It's easy to find for everybody. Do you want me to do this one, Trevor? Or?
You can do this.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, sure thing. Here we have, going on from the milestone assessments. Now, the milestone assessments that we have, 4 full exams, they're not just there for no reason at all, or just to make the students get a feel for what the exam would be, or something like that. We get a lot of very, very, very useful information from those, which in turn becomes very useful for the students themselves. Here we have our Google document. So this keys in with a number of other things, but essentially what we have is, for example, if we can have a look here, we've got milestone number 3, paper 1, explorations in creative reading and writing. It's broken down by question 1, 2, 3, 4, question 5. The assessment objectives are along the top, which relate to the individual skills for each question. Some of them crossing over, as you can see. The green boxes are where the students have achieved the appropriate, and as I say appropriate in terms of their passing, the appropriate grade for them to be able to go through and ideally achieve a C. Where we've got it in red, it just means they've got a little extra way to go, which, as we always make sure we tell the students, is fine at each particular stage, and we can demonstrate the students' learning, and the students themselves have noticed this and commented on it. Also, something else that we can find, which, hang on, can I see it on there? I'm looking for the national. Yeah, so we have the West Suffolk College average mark, broken down question by question, coming up for a total marks, and we've set the regarding the total marks out of 80, we've set it pretty high. We're going for 48 and saying that 48 is equivalent to a C or a 4. Here we have the AQA average, which Trevor will tell you a little bit more about, perhaps.
Yeah.
Trevor?
Yeah, so with regards to the milestone and the tracking, we do this for both maths and English. So as Piers has articulated already, we start the year and we really set the milestones in place around when the students will sit their GCSE exams. We're also making sure that the milestones happen therefore at kind of key dates. So milestones will generally be set for the week before half term. It gives the students time, gives the tutors time then to reflect and to mark those pieces of work, and to then make sure that the students are receiving the feedback the day that they come back after half term. The other thing that we've done, and the way that this was created, was off the back of AQA, who we use for both maths and English, off the back of their model for their mock analyzer. But the mock analyzer gives very individual feedback, and really what I needed and what the tutors needed was one sheet that gave an overview of the performance of the whole cohort. Really pleasingly, what we've been able to do then is set our own benchmarks, again as Peter said, really, really high. So I was talking out there to colleagues, we are delivering the new specification English. The biggest issue that we all face is we do not know what that grade boundary is. We've set it really high at 60%. Fingers crossed, we're way over ambitious for that, but nobody would expect anything less from us here at West Suffolk. So we're setting really high aspirations for our students, so that they're going into the exam knowing that they need to put in maximum effort. The analysis has also been fantastic because it's allowed us to gauge where our student cohort is against the AQA national average. Now the AQA national average has been supplied by the National Director of Curriculum from AQA, based on a survey of 30,000 Year 11 school students. So we was really expecting the school cohort to be way above where we are, first year of teaching, whereas obviously they've had 2, in some cases 3 years of build up to this. Pleasingly, we're across the 2 papers around about 3 marks behind where the school cohorts are. So we're touching wood fiercely and hoping that that sets us in good stead for next year. Again, as Piers has quite rightly said, the analysis is very quick, down and dirty when it's on the Google document. It allows us to shape lesson plans as we go from one term into another. It allows us to really model and make sure we're focusing on the right topics when it comes to half-term revision studies. But I'll let Piers tell you how else we use it.
Yeah, excellent. So, as we've seen, we can use this to model progress and to understand where the students are individually, but also across the entire college. So we can look at it and we can very, very precisely break down, okay, everybody is having trouble with paper 2 question 4. And then as a team we get together, we try to understand why that is, we try to understand what we need to do in order to improve that. And then as the milestones go by, we see the marks getting higher and higher for each one. One of the other things that comes out of there is this, which is our milestone assessment smart target sheet, which the students then sit down with the tutor, which I'll explain to you in a little more detail. We go through it and the student will then come up with their own smart target. But if I could give you a bit more detail on that. So as we can see, it's broken down by question. Everything in the 2 papers is essentially very, very formulaic. There's a certain set of skills that the students will need to master so that they can, whatever text is put in front of them, they can perform the same set of steps and produce a quality piece of work. And these are broken down into the assessment objectives, which we have here for each question. Again, broken down by question so that it's much more friendly for the students. The maximum mark for each question, the student's mark for each question, the mark out of 80, and then we have actually, we do have 3 particular targets that we do there. But how this works is, after the milestone assessment, we have a lesson where collaborative work is set for the students. They get on with that, while we, in the classroom, individually spend, and if I speak for myself here, it ends up being about 10 minutes with each student, but because of our class sizes, it's very comfortable and very manageable to do that, and we get a whole class done in one session. And the students will sit down, we will go through their paper, we will check their understanding of how each question went, the comments that have been written after each question, the mark, etc., etc. They will work through that and they will come up with their own SMART targets. Once those SMART targets have been set by the student, we then go on to ProMonitor. Now, in case anybody's sitting there thinking about admin, the Google document that we just looked at with the red and green boxes, it's incredibly functional. It's very, very functional. It's very easy to use. It's really quick. And you can have any number of members of staff actually working on it in different places on the college, at home, wherever, at any one time. That then transfers automatically to our ProMonitor system, which is then where the SMART targets get set. And we put those in. This example that we have here is a genuine SMART target set by one of our students. And as we can see, we try to keep it very, very simple. I mean, by definition, it's a SMART target. But we try to keep it incredibly simple and just very manageable for the students, so that the next milestone assessment, they can really see and understand, not just see, but understand the progress that they've made, and in turn, the progress that they need to make in order to achieve. Just sort of moving back to this just for a moment, I have found that even with students who aren't particularly the most engaged in the classroom, somehow that just changes, and when we do the feedback sessions, they suddenly become this different student and they take it very, very, very seriously. I found it's really, really worked and been very helpful throughout the year. But yeah, we get the SMART targets on, students will then work towards those for the next milestone assessment, and then we build as we go and we measure success as we go. Was there?
So.
There was.
what would be really fantastic now, if we can ask for your help and assistance in the same way as we did with the previous conference, which led to the production of the Good Practice Guide. What we'd really like to do is to for you guys to work on your tables and start to collect, it says 10 minutes, we're not going to have quite that long, start to collect some of the best practice that you are implementing right now within your organisations linked to teaching and learning, particularly of maths and English, and particularly if you can start to think both from a maths and English point of view and also what your vocational teams are doing. I'll put the stopwatch on, or the countdown timer on, so it won't be the whole 10 minutes, but again, if you can start to think on that and use the whiteboards for me, that would be fantastic. If anybody does need a pit stop or fill up, now would be the appropriate time to do that too.
Yeah.